Let's see if I can get Instagram here working with YouTube. I think this can happen. Let's see. Okay, yes, we are live everywhere. Hi, everybody. Hi, YouTube. Hi, Instagram. Hope y'all are okay. Instagram, I don't know if y'all actually going to be live or not. Ooh, child. We got a lot to get to today. Shout out again to all of you who joined me this weekend on the YouTube Live. That was fun. Had not done that before. Shout out to the 4 of you who got to join me in the live chat as well. That was super cool. Somebody was like, "Oh my God, I loved your guests." I did too. I had no idea those were the folks who were going to who were going to click the StreamYard link. So that was kind of fun. And as I said, over the weekend, we're going to do a YouTube live on the weekend where I get to bring you all in. Those of you who click that link can bring you all in. We're going to do that about twice a month. I'm leaning into the first and the third weekend of the month, either Saturday or Sunday. I'll let y'all know on the Thursday or Friday beforehand because, you know, my schedule's kind of crazy. So I don't have the capacity to do it all in advance. But we got a lot to get to today. Interestingly enough, I want to also say thank you to those of you who have been downloading and listening to the podcast, Lurie Breaks It Down. So in addition to the SiriusXM show, you guys know that we launched this podcast in March called Lurie Breaks It Down. And it's sort of my effort to take what we do here in SiriusXM and spread it beyond the barriers of SiriusXM, because not everyone's got SiriusXM. I get it. I understand it. But you still need the information. And we realized at the end of November, or in November of last year, we realized that the ecosystem, the echo chamber and the ecosystem surrounding media is one that really requires us to do the work of expanding beyond some of the barriers that limit our communication. So shout out to those of you who have been sharing the podcast episodes. It's interesting because on Friday, and the podcast comes out Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 p.m. And on Friday's episode, I just talked about how Donald Trump's tariffs are going to be impacting your cupboards. And I explained how the shipping containers that are coming from China are like at 40% capacity, or they have 40% on lack of filling. I'm saying that incorrectly. Like they only 60% full, basically. And that number is being challenged, and even additional reports coming out over the weekend, the number of ships that are coming in from China to places like Los Angeles, New York, are not one, far fewer ships than there used to be, and 2, the ships that are coming have far fewer things in them. So on Friday, I was explaining how, listen, my deep freezer, we ordered it. Deep freezer is here. We are packing the deep freezer. We are stocking it with everything that we need. My family drinks a lot of smoothies, for example. I know frozen fruits, probably something we can get locally, but I want to have it stored up and stocked up. We talked about on the podcast how if you have medicinals, if you are on a prescription and you know that you're going to be running out of your prescription over the next 2 weeks, baby, I'm going to need you to get your prescriptions together. I need you to stockpile your prescriptions, because in addition to the 145% tariffs that Donald Trump has levied as against China generally, he's also talking about imposing tariffs against pharmaceuticals. And that's, yes, includes your medicinals, but it also includes medical devices. So those of you who have CPAPs, who have devices at home that you need medicinally or for your medical, your whatever medical issues you got, child, if you know that walker is on its last wheel and you need another wheel for your walker, I'm going to need you to get your walker wheel fixed, okay? Because you got about 2 weeks. And what we're seeing, actually, even in today's, hold on, let me open up the Financial Times. Sorry, y'all. I thought I had this open already. I was looking at another article right before we got started. One of the leading articles in today's Financial Times, Instagram, y'all can see it. YouTube, you can see it. The title of the article is U.S. Ports and Air Freight Groups Report Sharp Drop in Cargo as Tariff Fears Bite. What this means is what I told y'all in the podcast on Friday is true as hell, because I be telling you the truth. Okay. But you need to be aware that what this means is like all the things, for those of you who didn't listen to the podcast, and even if you did, I'm going to say it again because you need to know this. The things that you look around your house, the things that you regularly consume that have a shelf life, that have a limited amount of time, a limited amount of usage. If you know your family eat a whole lot of rice, I'm gonna need you to buy a whole lot of rice. If your family know you eat a whole lot of beans, I'm gonna need you to have a whole lot of beans. And frankly, even if you don't eat rice and beans, I'm gonna need you to get some recipes. Because that might be what you have. That might be what you have. Okay. We started our garden this weekend because I was trying to start a couple weekends ago, but we couldn't. But I just want to read from you all to you all what was out today. Now, this week, as I said, this was in the podcast episode on Friday. I broke it down for you in like 25 minutes or less. But this is what's dropped in the news today. Donald Trump's trade war with Beijing is starting to affect the wider U.S. economy as container port operators and air freight managers report sharp declines in goods transferred from China. The first container shipments from China to face tariffs are due to land in the U.S. in the coming weeks. That's because it takes a good 30 to 45 days for a ship to get from China to the United States. Tariffs went into place May the 2nd. 30 days later, that's about April the 2nd, Liberation Day. And so 30 days later is what? About May 1st to May 2nd. So this week is the week we're going to start seeing ships come in that are going to be the first sets of ships that have to deal with the tariffs. And yes, if you have not hit like yet on the YouTube page, please hit like and subscribe and do all the things. But it says here, according to the reports, the first container shipments from China to face tariffs are due to land in the U.S. this week. In the port of Los Angeles, the main route of entry for goods from China, they expect that scheduled arrivals starting May 4th to be a third lower. So by Friday of this week, the arriving ships from China that are going to hit Los Angeles are going to be about a third empty in comparison to what they were last year. U.S. bookings for standard 20-foot shipping containers from China were 45% lower than a year earlier by mid-April. It's happening. Now, Liberation Day was April 2nd. The impact of Liberation Day is going to take some time. For those of us who get our consumables from ports in New York or on the Eastern Coast, it's going to take about an additional 10 to 15 days for those ships to get there than it took for them to get to Los Angeles. So you all on the West Coast are going to see some of these things before the rest of us do. But ports everywhere are seeing that their ports are largely empty. The ships are not there. The workers for those ports are also reporting that they ain't got shit to do. So I need y'all to go to the store calmly, because we're not doing this frantic shit. We've been talking about Project 2025 for 2 years now. We've been telling y'all to get ready and to get prepared. Now is the time. So calmly make your way to where you got to go to get the stuff that you need, because if these ships continue, and we have no reason to think that they're not, because what we also learned over the weekend was Donald Trump was like, we got deals. Everywhere's a deal. Deals are coming. All the countries are calling. Ain't not near one a deal. Ain't not near one. You know how we know? Because they ain't said shit about it. They ain't said shit about no deals. They've been talking about deals. I got a deal. You got a deal. Everybody got a deal. They ain't got no deals. Ain't no deals on the table. And we know China ain't got no deals on the table, because China was like, well, we ain't got is a deal. China said, no, we don't. That's fake news. And they said it's like trying to catch the wind. Talking about how we got a deal. That makes as much sense as trying to bottle up the wind. If you ain't got no bottle up for the wind, we ain't got no deals. Why? Because if you want to deal with us, the Chinese, you're going to have to start with some mutual respect. And what that means is you're going to have to roll back all these tariffs. And if you don't roll back these tariffs back to zero to where they was before you came into office, what we're not going to do is have a deal. Okay, so that's China. China, like, y'all can talk all this shit. Y'all got a deal you want. Ain't no deal. And guess what? Ain't no deal with the Japanese. The Japanese came over here talking about something. We gonna get us a deal. They left because they know what the Americans want. Because Americans ain't negotiating properly, because America is being run by a man whose brain is mush. His brain is mush. Elongated muskrat. He's leaving Doge, and everybody acting like that's some big success. And yes, I'm glad he's leaving Doge, but he's leaving Doge because he got what he needed. He wanted the data. He wanted the data on all 344 some odd million Americans. He done went through every single agency. They done planted their viruses, their spyware, and all this shit that don't nobody who's 80 some years old and older in Congress, hell, 80 some years old and younger in Congress, because they're not computer geniuses. Folks in Congress don't know how the hell to get all this computerized spy technology out of all the systems that run the country. Elongated muskrat done got what he needs. Responsive education. So yeah, Ron DeSatan, the Nazi DeSantis, is a terrible human being. He's a terrible human being. But Ron DeSatan, the Nazi DeSantis, is also married to somebody who is a terrible human being. Now, this is the same man who basically implemented immigration policies that had migrants flee in the state of Florida. So the industries that migrants have been largely a part of in the state of Florida have already exhibited evidence of collapse, right? We saw reports from a long time ago when people from the state of Florida was like, we ain't got nobody working in construction. We ain't got nobody picking in the fields. We ain't got none of the migrants. The migrants is gone. Where's the migrants? The migrants is gone. And so Ron DeSantis, the Nazi DeSantis, has not been very good at governing on a whole host of things. Part of the reason that people in the state of Florida don't have home insurance right now is because of the policies of Ron DeSantis, the Nazi DeSantis, where he basically signed into law legislation that said, y'all can't even have open conversation about climate change. Y'all can't even have open conversation about, like, in your governmental documents, a state that is greatly impacted by climate change. Y'all can't even talk about it in the state of Florida because of your governor, Ron DeSatan, the Nazi DeSantis. Well, child, Ron DeSatan, the Nazi DeSantis might be Ron DeFelon in a minute because of what's happening. Have y'all been seeing what's happening in the state of Florida? Oh my God. Oh my God. So in the state of Florida, I'm gonna give y'all the rundown. Occupy Democrats did a whole spread about this on their Twitter. There's articles all over the country right now about what's happening with Ron DeSatan, DeNazi, DeSantis, who might have to add DeFelon to his last name. So according to the reports, Ron DeNazi, my bad, Ron DeSantis is basically been caught up in a scandal between him and his wife and the charities in the state of Florida. Okay, so according to the report, there's been exposure, there's been reporting, there's been investigating that basically Ron DeFelon has funneled $10 million in taxpayer dollars to his wife's charity. And his wife's charity then gave that $10 million that was supposed to go to the public coffers, gave that money to like some dark money groups. Now, I'm just going to pause here and say, I don't like phrases like dark money groups or the black horse or, you had a heart that was black as night. I don't like that shit. That's racist. But when they're talking about a dark money group, they're basically talking about a group that will essentially be used to funnel money into elections that you technically would not be able to do had it not been for a decision that came down a couple years ago called Citizens United. And this is where the Supreme Court was like, are you a billionaire? Do you want to invest money in an election and buy it the way elongated muskrat bought the presidency? That's fine. Not a problem. You can go right ahead and do that. And so as a result of that decision, we now have all of these groups that can funnel money into elections that used to, they would have to declare it and we would know who was funneling money where, but now they don't have to because of this terrible decision. In fact, most of the horrific things that we're dealing with right now, we have the John Roberts Supreme Court to thank. So there's that. Oh, and also the hoes of the court, Sam Alito and Clarence Thomas. But anyway, so his wife's charity gets this $10 million that's supposed to go to the people of the state of Florida. You know how many school teachers that could pay for? Do you know how many after school programs $10 million could pay for? Do you know how many home insurance policies that could pay for? Which again, very important because thanks to Ron DeSantis, DeNazi, DeSantis, and the Republicans in Florida, y'all can barely have house insurance for your houses because you have driven the home insurance industry out of your state. Again, Republicans, they can't govern. They take power, but they can't govern. And so that's what y'all have to deal with right now. So then after his wife gets the money from in her charity, she gives it to these dark money groups who then took $8.5 million of the $10 million and sent it to Ron DeNazi, DeSatan, DeSantis, the felons accounts for his campaign. Ciao. So this is a sort of corruption that like is so corrupt. It's like, man, y'all did that. Like y'all really did that. Basically, there was a settlement agreement between the state of Florida and this organization called Centene. And Centene, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's Centene. Centene, I'm not sure. But Centene, that's what we're going to call it today, Centene. So Centene and the state of Florida had to reach a decision or a settlement agreement. And they reached a settlement agreement because Centene was the state's largest Medicaid contractor. And it was realized shortly after they were operational that they had overbilled the taxpayers in the state of Florida for medications to the tune of $67,048,611. It's a lot of money. 67. Let me get it right. $67,048,611. $67,048,611. Commas matter, folks. Commas matter in both grammar and in math. $67,048,611. Now, what they were supposed to do when they reached this settlement agreement, because again, there was this overbilling to the tune of $67 million, instead of taking the money and putting the money where it was supposed to go, which was in state and federal accounts, Ron DeSatan, DeNazi, DeSantis, DeFelon, his administration took $10 million and sent $10 million of the money to the Hope Florida Foundation. Now, Hope Florida Foundation is the name of the charity that his wife, Casey DeSatan, DeNazi, DeSantis, DeFelon, runs. And so it's really weird when you, the governor, send in instead of the full amount of money that you're supposed to send to the great people of the great state of Florida who got overbilled $67 million due to Medicaid fraud. And don't y'all have a whole ass senator who had been convicted of Medicaid fraud as well? Isn't that like Rick Scott? I got to look that up. I mean, please, if you could please look up who was the state senator in the state of Florida who also like defrauded. Y'all love elected people in the state of Florida who be defrauding your Medicare and your healthcare system. What's up with that? Anyway, we're going to get the name of that person in particular because I think it's Rick Scott, but I want to make sure that I'm calling the right name. If that's not the right name, my bad. But basically, the money was rerouted. There are two dark money, which basically just means fraudulent, two fraudulent organizations that are not required to report. It was Rick Scott. It was Rick Scott. I called it. Okay, Rick Scott. I believe he also was, yes, convicted of engaging in something medicinally fraudulent. Can't remember what all the allegations were, but Medicaid and fraud was a part of it. So basically, these organizations, these dark money groups that are, thanks to this Supreme Court decision, Citizens United, not required to report how they spend their funds. These groups then gave that $8.5 million to a PAC, a political action committee that was overseen by Ron DeSatan, DeSantis' chief of staff. It is so incestuous, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. According to the report, the Miami Herald unveiled the embezzlement scheme, and that's what they're calling it. It's a whole ass embezzlement scheme, which, quote, directly contradicts the claims made by DeSantis and his officials that the $10 million contribution from Centenine was separate from the Medicaid settlement. Child, money crimes don't pay. I mean, okay, let me not say that. Money crimes pay. Money crimes pay well. But money crimes are problematic because money crimes are paper trail crimes. And if I can follow the money, I can follow the crime, which is all they did. They followed the money, they followed the crime, and that's how they ended up realizing that Ron DeSatan, DeSantis might also be Ron DeFelon, along with his wife, if they are convicted of embezzlement as a result of these schemes. Ron DeSantis tried to act like, well, this is just a payment. It was like a cherry on top. He literally used that framing. This is kind of like a cherry on top, where they agreed to make an additional contribution. Ron DeSatan, DeSantis, DeFelon. Are we here to believe that you expect us to believe that this company that had already absconded with $67 million of the state of Florida's money, that they just decided out of the goodness of their hearts to just give an extra bit of money? It don't work like that. It don't work like that. And apparently there are now calls for further investigations. The investigatory bodies in the Floridian state house, there seems to be some effort to squash this investigation, but now it's spilled out into the pages, and now we're talking about it here. So Ron DeSatan, DeSantis, the felon, allegedly, who is presiding over a state where y'all ain't got no ability to really insure your houses. You don't have the capacity to really have conversations about climate change. Ever since he got rid of actual education in the state of Florida, and y'all have decided to instead take on the white, entitled, and incompetent type of education that basically says white people did everything and are the bomb.com and they're amazing, and everybody else who ain't white just ain't did nothing. Y'all school, your ratings have fallen. Your children are coming out of high school not prepared for college because y'all don't actually teach them things. I got nieces and nephews in the state of Florida, and I'm like, are y'all going to be employable anywhere outside of Florida? Because y'all don't know basic things. Your math scores are falling, your reading score are falling, your reading scores are falling, and now your healthcare system is being gutted by Ron DeSatan, DeSantis, and his wife Casey. So figure it out. But while that's all happening, there are also now ICE arresting judges. Judges, and then I read the charging document. I wanted to get into this a little bit today, but we're not really going to have time to talk as much about this as we want to. But I went to read the charging document that was filed against Milwaukee Judge Hannah Dugan. This is the judge, white woman. They are saying that this white woman judge basically helped a migrant who was going to be arrested. They are alleging that she essentially helped him escape. And so they are arresting her basically for facilitating the escape of a migrant who was going to be charged. But what's really weird is that when you read the charging documents, you realize that what they are accusing the judge of, they make it sound like, and then the judge, Hannah Dugan, she took the migrant, and I can't remember his name, but she took him. Actually, I can find his name because it's not respectful to not say the man's name. I can't remember it, but the defendant, we'll call him the defendant. Flores Ruiz. They are insinuating that the judge basically took Mr. Flores Ruiz, who is a migrant, who is not supposed to actually be here in the country lawfully. He doesn't have legal permission to be in the country. They're saying she absconded with him, and she took him out a secret door, a private door that nobody else goes to. And it's like, well, did you miss the part where they were asking for the FBI agents and the ICE agents to talk with the chief judge? Because the last time earlier this month, when they had an arrest in this courthouse as a result of ICE, there was now an order that the chief judge said that if anybody comes in to make any ICE arrest, you have to follow a certain protocol. They ain't followed a protocol. Then they said that the judge took this Mr. Flores Ruiz and took him through a non-public door. Yeah, but she took him through a non-public door where he went out into the public hallway. And he went out to the public hallway and then walked right past the folks who was there to arrest him, who then didn't arrest him when he was walking right past. He went past one elevator bank to another elevator bank, and they make it seem like, and then she took him to a secret elevator bank. Both of these elevator banks were public, and you know this because you can read the charging documents, and it's called FBI charging document against Milwaukee Judge Hannah Dugan. Like, you can look this shit up. But they are expecting us to not look these things up. And so they have accused this judge of trying to help this migrant escape. And they've made it seem really mysterious and awful and terrible. But then when you read the charging documents, it's like, wait a minute, she let him out the door and he walked right past y'all with his attorney. down the hallway and y'all ain't see him. He walked right past you. And then you got to do what? Arrest him. But now they have arrested this judge. And that's why we started this segment with that clip of Governor Pritzker saying basically he wants to see mass protests. You got a white man governor, J.B. Pritzker. Where is he the governor of? I mean, I think it's Illinois. Is he the governor of Illinois? I can't remember. Governor J.B. Pritzker is now saying basically we need mass sustained protests. They are in it's Illinois. Thank you. They are stealing people. Entering people into the slave trade. They stealing people off the streets. And I'm just going to be the first, not the first. I'm going to be the first I'm going to just say it. If you bust up in my community, you bust up in my house and you don't identify yourself and you just a bunch of strange white men who are trying to snatch people off the street, that's fighting actions. And I do not support violence of any kind. I obviously believe in self-defense. I do not support violence at all. But if you come into the community, how do I know that you're not some gangster? How do I know that you're not an actual kidnapper? Because what's happening is ICE is showing up into places. And now Pam, the bombshell blondie, the attorney general is talking about something. She's going to issue an order that say the police, that the ICE can just bust up in your house looking for a migrant. I wish the money won. Because I let you walk into the wrong stand your ground appearing house and y'all don't identify yourself. You don't have no badges on. You show up in plain clothes. You show up in plain in unmarked cars. And we just supposed to believe any old somebody can just snatch any old somebody off the street and that's it. And that's it. How I know? And you snatching up kids? I'm sorry, if I see a stranger snatching somebody off the street, to me, that's a kidnapping. And that's an opportunity for the entire community to come out and to collectively engage in self-determinative acts. Self-determinative acts that say we are going to keep each other safe. I don't know what it would look like. I do know that in slavery times, when white people were charged under the Fugitive Slave Act, which is what we're going to talk about in today's episode of the Lurie Breaks It Down podcast, which will release today at 2:00, we're going to talk about what it was to have a federal mandate that required all white people to participate in slave catching and what it looked like when some white people was like, nah, we're not doing that. Because right now, I feel like y'all going to show up in places, y'all snatching innocent people, and the innocent as far as we know, because they don't have no due process, because if they had due process, then that would be one thing, but y'all just taking them and you arrested them and you selling them into slavery into El Salvador. Like what's that? Where they do that at? Where they do that at? That's slavery. That's whole ass slavery. So if I see you snatching people, you coming up into my house, talking about you looking for somebody you unidentified, that is an act of transgression. And it must be responded to transgressively. Of course, again, because we don't promote violence on this show, do with that what you will. I'm just saying self-defense is a thing. And I just want us to think about what it's going to mean when we see people getting snatched up off the street. Like, what did it mean in Nazi Germany when people was getting snatched up off the street? They had options. You could either watch the people get snatched up off the street or you could make some different choices. Now, I'm staying inside and minding my business with the 92%. I'm just saying now that they talk about you can just bust up in somebody's house unannounced and just start snatching people. I don't know what y'all want, but this ain't what you want. I'm telling you, this ain't what you want. This ain't what you want. Bah, bah, bah. Yeah, they had the kids be dancing. This ain't what you want. I'm telling you, trust me on this one. It ain't what you want because it's not going to go well because you bust up into the wrong red-blooded American's house talking about you are the government looking for a migrant and you bust up in the wrong red-blooded American who's reading red, white, and white. Y'all going to have some problems. Y'all going to have some problems. 866-801-8255, 866-801-TALK is the number. We got to get ready to go to commercial break, but I'm curious. Have you started preparing for the tariffs? If y'all heard the podcast on Friday, this weekend, you should have been spending your time stocking up and filling up your cupboards. If you know there are things that your family uses, have you started expanding your purchases of those things? Have you started preparing? What are you doing to get ready? Because we got about 2 weeks. We got about 2 weeks before this thing hits. We got about 2 weeks before we start seeing the difference in the stores. Once these ships come in this weekend, coming up on Friday, that's when it's really going to be show and prove time. So I hope you all are preparing. I hope you're getting ready because at the end of the day, we got to keep each other safe. So our mutual aid networks are going to have to be brought to bear here. I was talking to a sister at my job. I was doing a presentation on all of this and for a number of the staff there. And one of the women who was one of my colleagues come up and she's like, listen, I live in a building with 70 units. We buy our food together now. We are sharing right now. We have a system. So if somebody's house gets broke into, we got this, that, and the other. Mutual aid is going to matter so much more. Coming together is going to matter so much more. So I pray that you all are listening, not just because we're going to freak the algorithm. And when you like, subscribe, and share, that helps freak the algorithm. But I hope you are listening and preparing because we do this work of sharing this information so that people can prepare. And you need to just be mindful and we're not freaking out. We're not stressing out. We are diligent. We move like ants. right? We move in community. We recognize that winter is coming. For those of you who remember the Game of Thrones reference, winter is coming. The North remembers, but winter is coming. And so what that means is prepare. Think about, what foods you might need. What if you got new babies, you're gonna need diapers. You might need to maybe think about cloth diapers so that you can recycle them mugs. You don't have to go out and buy diapers, but just be mindful of the things that you use on a regular basis. And worst case scenario, if all of a sudden Donald Trump wakes up from the haze of praise that's clouded his mind and decides to cancel the tariffs, it's going to take a little while and lag time in order for things to come back. But in worst case scenario, you just have extra stuff in your house that you are going to use anyway. I'm not saying go out and buy a bunch of shit you don't actually use, but things that you know that you need, particularly those of you who have prescription drugs and medical devices that you're going to need. You've got small children. Think about what those small children are going to need, not just now, but do like how my mama used to do. Like when it was summer, she would be buying clothes from the last season in extra large sizes so that by the next year, spring, we would be ready because she would already have clothes. And yes, you're going to be one season out, like behind. That ain't really going to matter, I think, as much for Americans in the future as it has in the past. So lots more to get to here on the Lurie Daniel Favor Show. 866-801-8255 is the number. How are you preparing is the question. Thank you, Instagram. Love y'all. See y'all later. YouTube, sorry that there was all this buffering. Urban View, we'll be right back after this. All right, y'all. Hold on. Let me see. Can y'all still hear me? I purposely kept it open just for a little bit. Can y'all still hear me? Somebody give me a heart or something to let me know. Okay, yes, y'all can see me. Hi. I don't know what happened. Because the other device that I was using for Instagram, that was fine. But I saw the bufferage. My apologies. But hopefully, once I refresh, I think it will bring it all back together. But yeah, y'all, pay attention. Get your dry goods, get ready, like and not just think about yourself, but let's be community minded, right? Let's think about the people in our communities who might not be able to buy additional amounts of things, and think about how we could perhaps help out, right? Maybe you have not just your rice and your beans for you, but maybe you got a little bit extra for neighbors who are going to be in need. Maybe you've got some way that you can be of support for other people, but just be mindful. This ain't about being fearful. It ain't about, not, it ain't about that. It's about making sure that we are reading the news, that we are paying attention to not just American media, but we're paying attention to media from across the world so we can see not just what's happening from an American perspective, but globally. Let's do the work of making sure that we are watchful and we are taking action to move like ants and to get ready for the winter that is coming. And again, worst case scenario, you just got a whole lot of rice in your basement or in your extra room or your closet or your cupboards. And you're going to eventually eat the rice. That's the point. You're going to eventually eat the rice. So don't go out and buy a whole bunch of shit you don't need. This is really about just thinking about what you currently rely upon and using the resources that you can to get ready. All right, now we got to go. We got to get ready for the next segment. Love y'all. Love y'all. Love y'all. And we'll be back tomorrow. Bye.